It's March 25th or 26th, something like that. We just had a big storm. We got pounded with 12 inches of snow. So, working in the shop today. Because what else is there to do besides enjoy fabricating? If you follow me or you know me or whatever, you know we build a ton of brush cutters for basically everything with a hydraulic flow. And me in particular, I'm always up for a challenge. So building the same exact thing over and over and over and over and over again gets a little bit redundant, but it's what pays the bills and it's what people want. But every once in a while I get the opportunity to kind of release the reins per se, and I get to have some fun and make something new. So I'll go through this for a second. You guys can tell me what you think, what you don't think. A bunch of these brush cutters, one of the, I guess the weaknesses, if there was a weakness, I would say it's probably blades. And usually what happens is as the person is cutting, the blades will come to a stop. Once they come to a stop, the first initial instinct is to lift the cutter up. Well, when you lift the cutter up and if the blades are stuck in a stump or a piece of wood, you know, you're using leverage and it's easy to bend the blade or break the blade. So I'm working on something different to maybe alleviate that. And basically there's only so many things you can do to get rid of the issue. Make the blade shorter, make the blades thicker. Yeah, I guess maybe education of the operator, but at the end of the day, whoever's in the seat kind of decides. So I'll run you through what my plan is for this new one that I'm building. As you can see, this is going to be the blade disc. This right here is what we're going to use to couple to a drive bearing assembly. we have a bunch of those, and this right here is going to be the new blade. 3/4 of an inch thick, so it's plenty heavy. We left an inch of meat on all four sides to kind of, like I said, to alleviate any weak points. I'm pretty confident that that's going to hold up to pretty much any log or stump you find cutting. You'll have to excuse the air compressor in the back. That thing is about Christopher Columbus old, maybe even older. But so what the plan is we have these discs, which I will put in the lathe, and we'll take this so it's concentric, or not concentric, but perfectly round. This will go inside of this, obviously too, once I clean this up. This will go in this. This will go on the bottom. The bolts will go through here, through these corresponding holes in the disc. So this will be what it rotates on. It'll have two 1-inch bolts, grade 8. These will all be grade 8, 3/4 bolts. Yeah. So this here is, if you're wondering, that is the plate that'll mount to the top of the deck with the bearing assembly that goes through. This is the actual the body of the cutter, and how we did this is 8-inch channel, 3/8 plate. So when this is done, excuse the mess. When this is done, there will be obviously a hole in the center. That mounting plate will be welded to this, and all of our supports will go sideways and long ways and crossways and corner ways and up ways and down ways. And Steve, if Steve is away, it's going on there. So yeah, this will be basically our, I don't even know really how you want to call it. We can set them up to run low flow or high flow. It really doesn't matter to me. Basically, the differences are the motor. So, and as long as I'm touching on that, I got to talk about the high flow versus low flow. We get asked a lot, you know, what's the difference between high flow and low flow? Well, realistically, about $2,000. So, and you can put whatever spin you want to put on it, honestly. You can say it'll do this, it'll do that, it'll do this, it'll do that. Regardless, I'm going to call bullshit. So, and here's the reasoning behind that. A brush cutter is just that. It cuts brush. It's not a tree cutter. We do make tree cutters. We make rotary disc mulchers. We can make rotary drum mulchers. Basically, we can make about everything. But typically, unless you're in the commercial side of business, these are just fine. For the landowner that wants to maintain his trails or widen out his pasture or even mow the pasture because it hasn't been hayed in 27.3 years or whatever. A brush cutter is more than adequate. Now, if you're going to be commercially cutting, you know, obviously you're going to want to step up to something high flow, rotary drum, disc mulcher, something of that. We sell a lot of disc mulchers to municipalities, counties, a couple of state offices, a lot of power line companies that do clearing, basically because it's just get the stuff down. Who cares what it looks like? It doesn't matter if there's 3-foot chunks or 12-foot chunks. Basically, they just want it laying on the ground so it's not touching the power line. And the faster and the less expensive you can do that, the better. So, yeah, back to the high flow, low flow. Yep, you can get a brush cutter on low flow, and we say that it'll cut, 4-inch stuff. To be honest, cutting ability is determined by the carrier machine. It has very little to do with the actual cutter. If you build a cutter to hold up, the rest is on the skid steer. Has very little to do. If your skid steer makes 14 gallons a minute, there is no possible way to cut 10-inch trees. If your skid steer makes 20 gallons a minute on the low flow circuit, yeah, you're going to cut a little bit bigger trees. I'd say probably between 5 and 6 inch. The other thing we get a lot of is size, and been over this and down this and up this and over it, around it and through it, and 16 different ways of Sunday. With size, everybody says the same thing. Well, I want something that's going to cover the width of my machine. And to that I say, great, if you're cutting grass. If you're cutting grass, absolutely. Wider is better. So, matter of fact, we made one that was 10 feet wide. We've made them that are 12 feet wide. That one on a tractor, so bear with me, whatever. Yeah, if you're mowing, definitely bigger is better. If you're cutting brush, at no point ever do I want 8-foot long head hanging off the front of my skid steer. I do this basically every single day. I've ran these, I can't even fathom how many hours. And what it boils down to is, as you're cutting, commercially cutting even, there's going to be places that you can't cut. People think that it's like mowing the grass. You run a straight line to the other end, you turn around, you come back. Very, very, very seldom, unless it's in somebody's yard, is that truly the case. Usually there's big trees, small trees, rocks, stumps, roots, holes, you name it. Very, very seldom do you ever go perfectly straight. Brush cutting is more of a forward and back, side to side type of thing. Like I said, now if you're mowing a pasture, completely different. Yep, 100%. I would want something bigger. On my machine at home, I have a John Deere 325G. Absolutely hate the machine, but whatever. That's not here or there. I also have a Bobcat T300, and I got that old fellow over there. That's a New Holland, which is probably the best machine I've ever owned. That thing, every single time I turn the key, it starts, and that's all I can ask of it. Been great. Yeah, so on the 325G, we have horses, goats, chickens, you name it. Do a lot of fence line. At no point ever have I said, man, it sure would be awesome to try to stick this 8-foot wide cutter between these 7-foot wide fence posts. Yeah, whatever's whatever. I guess everybody has their own opinions and whatever. I try not to take any of that to heart. Usually I just do what works best for me. I can give advice that I know, what I've found out over building, I think, like 3,000 of these things now. But at the end of the day, if it's what the customer wants, if they want an 8-foot cutter, regardless of what I tell them, I'll build them an 8-foot cutter. If they want a 4-foot cutter, I'll build them a 4-foot cutter. Yeah, just something to keep in mind. Another thing too, guys, if you ever have a question, hydraulic related, I'm not a genius when it comes to hydraulics. I have a firm grasp, let's say. Yeah. Am I an engineer? Hell no. I couldn't dumb myself down enough to be an engineer. I would have to lose 97% of the common sense that I have. I'm just kidding. If you're an engineer and you're offended, I don't really care. Whatever. Yeah, give me a call, shoot me a text, message, whatever you want to do. Smoke signals, carrier pigeon. I don't have the Twitter. I don't have that. But I think I have the Facebook. I got the Messenger, I got text, and I got a phone. So one of those probably would work best. All right. Bye.